my wife threw her wedding ring right at me, yelling, "Tonight, I am single," before vanishing for the night. I took her at her word. The very next morning, I filed for divorce. She threw her wedding ring at my chest and told me she was not my wife tonight. I stood there in our Adams Morgan apartment watching the gold ring bounce on the hardwood floor, and I felt something completely freeze inside me. She grabbed her purse, slammed the door, and I heard her heels echoing down the hallway as if she were walking toward freedom. Most guys would have panicked, blown up her phone, or spent the night waiting for her, hoping she would come back apologizing. Me, I picked up the ring, placed it on the kitchen counter under the overhead light, and took 3 photos from different angles. Then, I opened a new folder on my phone and named it evidence, because there is one thing they never tell you about marriage. The moment someone throws away the symbol of your commitment and announces they are single, they have just handed you the case on a silver platter. I was 29 years old. We had been married for 4 years, and I thought I knew what stability looked like. We met in college when we were young, and we were living the typical life of young professionals with the exposed brick wall apartment and the Sunday farmer's market routine. I worked as a project manager for a tech company. She was in marketing for a downtown startup. We had the life that looked perfect on Instagram, pasta nights, podcast Sundays, the kind of relationship where your friends type goals in the comments. But about 8 weeks before that night, things started to change in a way I could not really pinpoint. She was going out more often, always with her coworkers, and consistently coming home after midnight smelling of alcohol and the scent of a crowded bar. I am not the jealous type. I never have been. So, I did not make a big deal out of it. When I asked her how her night went, she would give me brief answers and head straight for the shower. Suddenly, her phone had a passcode I did not know. She was deleting message threads right in front of me without even trying to hide it. I told myself it was a phase, that maybe she needed space, that marriage has its seasons, and this one was just a bit rough. Looking back today, I wonder how many red flags you have to see before you stop making excuses. I was wrong. That Friday night, I made dinner as usual. Carbonara pasta, garlic bread, the works. 7 p.m. Passed with no text. 8 p.m. Came and went with nothing. I ate alone, put her plate in the fridge, and sat down to watch something mindless on Netflix. She got home at 9:12 p.m., and I know the exact time because I looked at my watch when I heard the door. She was not stumbling. She was completely sober, and that is what scared me. She looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was some guy she was forced to live with. I asked her if she wanted me to heat up her plate, and she laughed. Not a happy laugh, a dry one. "I am 27, and I am living like I am 40, she said, tossing her bag on the couch. "I am sick of playing pretend family. I am sick of pretending that this is enough for me. I am sick of you acting like we are the perfect little unit when I feel like I am disappearing." I stayed calm. I asked her what she meant. I told her we could talk about how she was feeling. She cut me off and said there was nothing to discuss, that she did not want yet another reasonable conversation where I fixed everything with logic. Then she did it. She ripped off her wedding ring, held it up between us like it was evidence of a crime I had committed, and said those words I will never forget. "This ring is the symbol of my disappearance." She threw it violently at my chest. It hit me and dropped, and the sound it made hitting the floor was the loudest thing I had ever heard. "I am single tonight," she said, grabbing her purse again, telling me not to wait up, not to call, not to do anything. And she left. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes staring at the door. I did not feel anger. I did not feel sadness. I felt a strange clarity, as if someone had just turned on all the lights in a dark room. She had just told me, before God in our apartment and of her own free will, that she considered herself single. Not separated, not needing space. Single. I picked up the ring, and instead of putting it away in some sentimental spot, I placed it on the counter like a piece of evidence at a crime scene. Then, I did what any guy with half a brain would do in 2024. I started documenting everything. I opened my notes app and typed out the timeline. Her arrival time, her exact words, as best as I could remember them. The fact that she threw the ring, the fact that she left after declaring herself single. I checked our phone plan. I enabled call recording permissions from my state and made sure my cloud backup was active. Then I tried calling her, going straight to voicemail. I waited 25 minutes and tried again. Voicemail. On the 5th try, around 9:30 p.m., she picked up. I could hear everything. The bass bumping, people shouting over the music in the background. She yelled to ask me what I wanted, and I asked her where she was and if she was safe. She laughed, saying she was having fun on a night out, something I could not understand. Then she repeated to me that she was not my wife tonight, that she was free to do as she pleased, and then she hung up. I saved the call log. I took a screenshot and uploaded it to the cloud. Then I sat on the couch and just breathed. This was not an argument. This was not a rough patch. This was a unilateral decision to blow up our marriage, and she had documented it herself. Around 10:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a picture. She was at a rooftop bar, sitting with some people I had never seen before, smiling with a drink in her hand. The caption read, "I bet you wish you were more fun." I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because it hurt, well it did, but because I realized she had just given me everything I needed. I took screenshots, saved them in 3 different places, and created an email folder with the timestamps. I did not reply to the photo. I did not react. I did not give her anything she could use later. I just saved it. By 11 p.m., I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, searching for divorce lawyers in DC. I found one who had excellent reviews, specialized in high-conflict cases, and was known for acting fast. At 11:58 p.m., I called his emergency line. He picked up on the 3rd ring sounding awake, and I gave him the shortest version possible. I told him my wife had thrown her wedding ring at me, declared herself single, left, sent me a picture showing her out, and said she was free to do as she pleased. I explained that I had recordings, screenshots, and timestamps for everything. There was a silence. Then he said something that made my whole body relax. "She just handed you the entire case." He told me not to delete anything, not to contact her unless she did first, and to meet him at his office on Monday morning at 8 a.m. I hung up and realized I was no longer afraid. I was just done. She thought this was a punishment. She thought she could go out and live her single fantasy, then come home to find me waiting there like a scolded child, ready to apologize for being boring. But by the time she walked back through that door, the process would already be in motion. I went to bed that night and slept better than I had in 2 months because, for the first time in a long while, I knew exactly what I was doing. She came home on Sunday morning expecting to have a conversation, but the machine was already in motion. I heard her key in the lock around 10:30 a.m. I heard her drop her bag in the hallway. I heard her footsteps slow down when she saw me sitting at the kitchen table with a coffee and my computer. She looked rough, her mascara smeared, her hair messy, wearing the same dress from Friday night. She tried to smile, that little sorry smile, as if we had just had a stupid argument about the dishes. She asked if we could talk in a very small, cautious voice. I looked up at her and told her to check her emails. Her face froze in confusion. Then she pulled out her phone, and I watched her expression change as she scrolled through the screen. Her eyes widened, her mouth fell open, and she looked at me like I had just set the apartment on fire. She held up her phone, asking what the hell this was, saying I was filing for divorce. I took a sip of my coffee and reminded her that she had thrown her ring at me and told me she was single, that I had simply taken her at her word. She started pacing, her hands shaking, saying it was just one night, that she was angry and did not mean it like that. I stayed calm and pointed out that she had sent me a picture showing her out with others and a caption mocking me, that she had told me on a recorded line that she was free to do as she pleased. She stopped pacing and her voice turned sharp, asking if I had recorded her, calling me a control freak, saying that was exactly why she needed space. I shook my head and explained that there was a difference between documenting and controlling. She tried a different approach, sitting across from me, trying to take my hand. I pulled it away. She said she had made a mistake, that she felt trapped and had snapped, but that she loved me and did not want this. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt absolutely nothing. I told her she had not snapped. She had made a series of choices, throwing her wedding ring, declaring herself single, going out, sending me proof of it. She was crying harder now, asking if one bad night meant I was throwing away 4 years of a relationship, asking if I did not even want to try. I stood up. I poured the rest of my coffee down the sink and asked her who threw the ring. On Saturday morning at 8 a.m., I had met with the lawyer. His name was Michael Hargrove, in his 50s, impeccable suit, the kind of guy who canceled his weekend plans because he knew how to recognize urgency when he heard it. I had shown him everything. The photos of the ring on the floor, the timestamps, the call recording, the text with the photo, her exact words. He had laid it all out on his desk like he was building a case for a trial, which I suppose he was. He told me this was solid evidence, tapping the photos she had sent me, explaining that she had declared herself single and documented her own behavior, all in writing. He asked me about assets, and I detailed everything for him. The apartment lease was in my name. I had paid the deposit in full and every bill since day one. Our bank accounts were joint, but I had been the primary breadwinner. She made about 60% of my salary. No kids, no shared assets aside from furniture and the usual married couple stuff. He nodded, took notes, and told me we would have the petition ready to be filed electronically first thing on Monday morning, that we needed to get ahead before she had time to prepare a strategy. All the groundwork had been done on Saturday afternoon. I felt a strange calm, as if I was finally doing something instead of just taking what she was throwing in my face. On Sunday afternoon, after she came home, after she cried, screamed, and tried everything, I laid out the reality for her. The apartment lease was in my name, and she needed to pack her bags. She stared at me like I was speaking another language, asking where she was supposed to go. I shrugged and reminded her that she wanted independence, that she wanted to be single. She tried to protest, said she had rights, that I could not force her to leave. I pulled up the lease on my computer. I showed her my name. I showed her the proof that I had paid every deposit, every subscription, everything. I told her she could go to her friends, to her sister's house, that she could figure it out, but she was not staying here. She called me every name in the book, told me I was cruel, told me I was punishing her, told me I was not the man she married. I just stood there and waited until she ran out of words. Then I said the thing I had been thinking about since Friday night. The man you married would have waited for you, would have forgiven you. He would have let you walk all over him. But that man does not exist anymore. She packed 2 suitcases, crying the whole time, slamming drawers and muttering that I was going to regret this. I changed the door code the second she left. I sent an email to the building manager to notify him of the situation, and I spent the rest of Sunday taking down our wedding photos. Every frame, every picture of us, smiling on a beach or at a party with friends, I packed them away in a box and put it in the storage closet. The apartment felt bigger without them, cleaner, as if I could finally breathe. On Monday morning, Michael Hargrove filed the petition electronically through the DC court system. By Monday afternoon, it was officially in the system, and on Wednesday morning, she was served with the papers at her office. I know this because her sister called me screaming about it, yelling about how humiliating it was to get served at work. I kept my voice neutral and told her to tell my wife to contact my lawyer. Then I hung up. I blocked her sister, blocked her mother, blocked everyone on her side who I knew would start the guilt trip campaign. My phone blew up for an hour. Texts from numbers I did not recognize. People telling me I was making a huge mistake, that I was acting rashly, that marriage is based on forgiveness. I deleted absolutely all of them. Have you ever noticed how people who have never been in your situation always have the strongest opinions on what you should do? Around 4 p.m. that Wednesday, she showed up in the lobby of my building. The guy at the front desk called me to ask if I wanted him to send her up. I said no and told him to let her know I was unavailable. But I went down anyway because I knew she would not leave until she said what she came to say. She was standing by the elevators, and she had clearly made an effort. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing the dress I had always said I loved. She saw me, and her whole face lit up as if this was going to work. She stepped toward me and begged me to give her just 5 minutes. I crossed my arms and told her to say what she had to say. She took a breath, and I could see her trying to organize her thoughts, trying to find the exact words that would make me break. She said she had been awful, that she knew it and was not denying it, but that it was one night of poor judgment and I was ready to throw it all away. I did not flinch, and I told her it was not one night, that it was 8 weeks of distance, of deleted messages, of sleepless nights, and then one night where she made it official. She reached for my hand again. I took a step back. She said she was scared. Scared of losing me, scared of being alone, scared of having destroyed the best thing in her life. And this time, the tears were actually real. I looked at her, and for a second, I almost felt something. Almost. You cannot pull the pin on a grenade and then ask to glue the pieces back together, I told her. She was sobbing now, asking if that was it, if 4 years were vanishing just like that. I nodded and confirmed that it was just like that. I went back upstairs, and she did not follow. I watched her from my window as she stayed in the lobby for another 10 minutes. Then she finally walked out to the street and got into an Uber. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from her saying I was going to regret this. I deleted it, blocked her number, and sat down on my couch. The apartment was quiet, completely quiet, and for the first time in months, it was not suffocating. I felt at home. On Thursday, I got a call from Michael Hargrove informing me that she had hired a lawyer and was demanding alimony as well as half the value of the apartment. That did not surprise me, and I asked him if she could actually get it. He laughed and said she could always ask, but we had evidence of her abandoning the marital home, her declaration of being single, and the fact that the lease was in my name with proof of my exclusive financial contribution. He told me we had a preliminary hearing in 6 weeks and that I needed to prepare for her to come and play the victim. I told him I was ready because I was. She thought she could blow up our marriage on Friday, party all weekend, and then come back sweet talking with tears and apologies so I would fold. But she had forgotten one thing. I'm the kind of guy who documents everything. The preliminary hearing was set for a Thursday morning, 6 weeks after Michael Hargrove filed the case. I showed up in a suit, Michael Hargrove by my side with a folder full of printed evidence because he said judges always love paper. She walked in 10 minutes late accompanied by her lawyer, a guy in his 30s who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. She was dressed conservatively, minimal makeup, hair pulled back, the perfect aesthetic of a wronged wife. We sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. She did not look at me, just whispered to her lawyer and dabbed her eyes with a tissue. The judge was a strict woman in her 50s, and she flew through the preliminaries. Her lawyer stood up first and painted me as cold and impulsive. He said I had filed for divorce after a single argument, that I had asked my wife to leave with nowhere to go, that I had refused any attempt at reconciliation. He told the story as if I were the one who had abandoned her and not the other way around. Then Michael Hargrove stood up and laid out the evidence like slamming cards on a table. He showed the photos of the wedding ring on the floor, played the recording of her phone call from the bar where she declared herself single, and showed the text with the picture of her out with others and the mocking caption. Her lawyer tried to object, claiming the recording had been obtained without consent, but Michael Hargrove had already verified DC. One-party consent law. The judge looked at the photo for a long time, then looked at my wife before asking her directly if she was the one who had sent that message. My wife nodded with a barely audible voice and said yes, but that she was upset and angry and did not mean it. The judge asked what she meant, then, by announcing to her husband that she was single and going out. My wife started to cry. She said she had felt suffocated in the marriage, that she had needed space and had made a terrible mistake. The judge did not look sympathetic. She just looked tired. She asked me if I had any intention of reconciling. I replied, no. Once trust is broken this way, it cannot be repaired. The judge issued temporary orders. I kept the apartment. The joint accounts were frozen pending the division of assets. No alimony until the final hearing, and we were both ordered to attend a mediation session before any trial. My wife's lawyer tried to argue for temporary support, claiming she had nowhere to live. Michael Hargrove fired back that she had voluntarily left the marital home after declaring herself single and that she had family in the area. The judge ruled in our favor. Outside the courtroom, my wife tried to approach me. Michael Hargrove stepped in and reminded her that all communication had to go through the lawyers. She looked at me over her shoulder, her eyes red, and asked if I really felt nothing. I did not answer. I just walked away. The following week, she launched a social media campaign. Subtle at first, posts about heartbreak, about being caught off guard, about people showing their true colors. Her friends flooded the comments with support, calling me every name imaginable. I did not reply. I did not play into it. I just took screenshots of everything and sent them to Michael Hargrove in case they would be useful. My friends reached out to ask what had really happened, and I gave them the short version. She threw her ring, declared herself single, and went out, sent me the proof, and I filed for divorce. Most of them were not surprised. A few had noticed the changes in her over the previous months, the way she would isolate herself at parties or spend all her time on her phone. One of my buddies told me he had seen her at a bar a few weeks before the incident, acting very friendly with someone else, while I was supposedly at home working late. I wish he had told me at the time, but I understood why he did not. No one wants to be the messenger in that kind of situation. The mediation session was scheduled 3 weeks after the hearing on a Monday afternoon in a downtown conference room. It was me, Michael Hargrove, her lawyer, and a mediator who looked like she had been doing this for decades. The mediator explained the process, saying this was our chance to resolve things without going to trial, that it would be cheaper and faster for both of us. My wife's lawyer started with her demands. She wanted half of the apartment's appreciation in value since our marriage. She wanted half of the contributions to my retirement account during the marriage, and she wanted me to cover her moving expenses and her first month's rent somewhere else. Michael Hargrove fired back with my offer. I would give her a lump sum payment of $15,000, which roughly equaled her financial contributions to our shared expenses during the marriage, in exchange for which she would sign away everything else with no further claims. Her lawyer called the offer inadequate. Michael Hargrove pointed out that she had abandoned the marriage, that she had no legal right to a property I had leased before the marriage, and that her behavior was thoroughly documented. The mediator asked if we could take a break, and my wife's lawyer took her out into the hallway. Michael Hargrove told me to stand firm, that he was bluffing, that he knew he did not have much leverage. When they came back, my wife asked if she could speak to me directly. The mediator said it was allowed if both lawyers agreed. Michael Hargrove looked at me. I nodded, and he said okay. Her lawyer looked annoyed, but did not object. She looked at me from across the table, and her voice was shaking. "Is there a chance?" she asked. "Any chance at all that we can fix this?" I knew this was coming. I had prepared myself for it. But hearing her say it for real still felt strange. I looked at her, this person I had spent 4 years with, whom I had planned a future with, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. "No," I said, and my voice was steady. She closed her eyes as if I had hit her, and when she opened them again, they were filled with anger instead of sadness. "I hate you," she said loud enough for the mediator to shift uncomfortably in her chair, telling me she hated me for giving up, for being so cold, for not even trying. I did not react. I just sat there waiting for her to finish. "Okay," I said. "That makes things easier." Her lawyer put a hand on her arm, whispered something, and she sank back into her seat, breathing heavily. The mediator asked if we needed another break, but I said no. I wanted to get it over with. My wife's lawyer consulted with her for a few minutes, then came back with a counteroffer. $25,000, and I cover her attorney fees. Michael Hargrove looked at me. I shook my head. We had already agreed on our maximum, and that was above it. Michael Hargrove told them the offer was $15,000. It was take it or leave it, and if they wanted to go to trial, we would be happy to let a judge see all the evidence in open court. That got their attention. Her lawyer asked for a moment, took my wife outside again, and when they came back, she looked defeated. She accepted the terms. We signed the settlement agreement right there. The mediator served as a witness, and it was a done deal. The divorce would be finalized in 60 days, the standard waiting period in D.C., but the division of assets was settled. I wrote her a check for $15,000. She signed a waiver for any further claims, and we were legally separated. As we were gathering our things, she stopped at the door and gave me one last look. She did not say anything. She just looked at me as if she were trying to memorize my face, or maybe trying to figure out how we had ended up here. Then she left. Michael Hargrove shook my hand and told me I had handled it perfectly, that most guys in my position would have caved to the emotional manipulation. I thanked him, paid the remaining balance of his fees, and walked out into the afternoon sun feeling lighter than I had in months. 60 days later, I received the email from the court. Dissolution finalized, marriage legally ended. I was sitting at my desk at work when it happened, and I just stared at the screen for a minute. For years of marriage gone, reduced to a PDF attachment. I forwarded it to my personal email for my records, then I went back to work. That weekend, I rearranged the entire apartment, moved the furniture, bought new sheets, hung new frames. I wanted the space to feel like mine, not ours, not a museum of something dead. I started running again, something I had stopped doing when we got married because she said I spent too much time on it. I took a weekend trip to Portland, just me. No plans, no itinerary. I got a promotion 3 months later, the kind I had been working hard for, but was too distracted to fully commit to. My life started belonging to me again, as if I were living it instead of acting it out. People asked me if I was seeing anyone, and I said no, not yet, that I needed time to remember who I was outside of being someone's husband. The truth is, I did not miss her. I missed the idea of stability, the idea of a partnership, but I did not miss her specifically. And that told me everything I needed to know to be certain I had made the right choice. Comment. I've been reflecting on stories like this a lot lately, and one thing stands out to me. When respect disappears, holding on to your own dignity becomes the most important choice you can make. Setting firm boundaries isn't about being cold. It's about honoring what you deserve. I believe taking responsibility for your peace shows real strength. Healing begins when you stop waiting for someone else to fix things and start choosing yourself. Being kind to yourself first allows you to show up kinder for everyone around you. Learning to walk away from what no longer serves you opens the door to genuine calm. I hope you pause today and ask yourself what boundaries you need in your life. You deserve a relationship or a life that feels safe and respectful. Thanks for being here with me on this journey. You've got everything it takes to build that peace for yourself. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.